A partnership that went awry in sports media was Stephen A. Smith, executive producer and host of ESPN's First Take, and Max Kellerman, longtime sports media man who, after leaving First Take, has his own show on the same network. Stephen A. would admit he wanted Kellerman off the show in an interview with Ebro and Rosenberg.
How do you feel? How do you think Max feels? How do you think Max feels about all of this?
Thus, on his show, Dan Le Batard asked Smith about it.
That a debate show requires certain things that I believed he did not bring to the table when it came to sitting opposite of me. Max Kellerman and I, as far as I was concerned, did not work for me. It was not a show that I wanted to be a part of for years to come.
This is via Le Batard show on YouTube, but let's pause here for a moment. What I give Smith credit for is admitting that he wanted Max Kellerman off the show, though many loyalists felt when this went down with Terrell Owens that it was the final straw. Disagreements, as we know, are bound to happen. Yet, it has to happen with a debate show, as we do know. And Max Kellerman was quality, very quality, just not in the eyes of Stephen A. Smith.
To me, if I'm saying, man, get rid of this dude, fire him, he don't deserve a job in this business, that's an entirely different matter altogether, which I have never nor would I ever say. But me saying, yo, this is not the partner for me, there is no crime in that. I ain't apologizing for it. I'm not taking it back. I'm not stuttering. I'm not mincing words.
The video is via Le Batard show on YouTube. Let's pause here for a moment. Fair points, however, a few takeaways. There was a moment that I want to bring to your attention while Stephen A. was recording the I Am Athlete podcast with Adam Pac-Man Jones, Brandon Marshall, and LaShawn Shady McCoy, and it was this, okay? Brandon Marshall, pictured, asked Stephen A., did you let Max Kellerman know you were having these conversations with management about his role with the show? Stephen A. admits he did not. LaShawn McCoy laughs his behind off because he knows he's got him. Shady would point out the hypocrisy of Smith's own words, which were, wait a minute, didn't you say Kevin Durant not having a face-to-face with Russell Westbrook prior to his departure to join Steph Clay and the Golden State Warriors was wrong of him? Smith would then say Max knew where he was coming from, which would be hypocritical. Would it not? To what he stated a minute prior to that. So you could say one thing and then when you do the other and you don't follow your own words, we call it out. Because that's exactly what it is. It's hypocritical. Max Kellerman had his own show where he replaced Zubin Mehenti with Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams, and then Max took over in the lead host spot. Mainly an ESPN radio show that they simulcast on ESPN. And then he was given another show called This Just In, which is in the afternoon, and it looks identical to Get Up, mainly because of the aesthetics that they shoot in the same studio in New York City. And both shows are good. There's no issue with it whatsoever. Stephen A. brought up a point that, like, if Marcellus Wiley were to sit across from Max Kellerman, it would be a great show, but him and Max didn't mesh together. One thing that stood out to me was just how publicly sour it became for Stephen A. But I will say this. Max Kellerman hosts those two shows. As a boxing purist, I love Max on boxing. And I think he got the raw end of the deal with Stephen A. Because he wants Mad Dog Russo. Like Dan Le Batard said, there's too much nuance with Max, right? They had their disagreements over Colin Kaepernick. They had their disagreements over various things involving social justice, right? And I've said this before and I'll say it again. Jamil Hill said on a podcast with Richard Deitch that Stephen A. is able to get away with a lot of things he does because he's more right-wing or center-right than, not her words, my words now, like a Max Kellerman or a Jamil Hill. If Stephen A., as executive producer, does not want Max on, he said it's not a crime. I agree with that. It's not a crime. But there does come some scrutiny because this was someone a lot of people agreed with and felt like he spoke to them on serious issues. And when there was a serious issue that came up in sports, let's be clear, he was better than Stephen A. Smith because of their politics. He was able to craft things in a light that was that resonated with a lot more folks that were watching than Stephen A. did. So I don't know if it was necessarily one thing. I think it was many things. And Stephen A. does have that right, okay? I don't want to take that away from him. What I will say is a lot of people are rejecting this product. Their ratings are still very good. But the criticisms that Mad Dog Russo is facing, the criticisms that the show has taken, the lack of insight from Stephen A. and Molly with Dana White when he struck his wife publicly at a club on New Year's Eve fell way short, and he basically said he's a friend. I mean, they were talking about journalistic integrity and having that drive you to where you can give really solid points, him and Levitard. And instead of doing that, it's become more theater. That was a moment where they failed. You know, the show with Michael Kay where they were talking about hockey, utter fail. They barely bring up baseball, ever. And that's because Stephen A., in his own words, said it is about the money, and we know what we need to do to keep that coming in by paying attention to what the audience wants. So take that as you will.